A word that popped up during my research was resolution.
Resolution.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think every album is an evolution, hopefully, even if it's just personal in my own subjective point of view. I think I started off albums being extremely musical and jam orientated, and later came the poetry, trying to work out good lyrics, and got to the point where I was almost more interested in lyrics than how big, how colorful the song could be. And this time around, I realized, well, there's a really beautiful thing that the trio does musically, and I wanted to bring that good poetry in with the intense musicality and see if we can add them both together. And so, in that sense, there was a nice full circle and another revolution, and another. In a way, it is resolved, maybe a little less angry, able to be, because of the lack of anger, able to be a better conduit for these emotions and these feelings. Because anger can sometimes be a great energy, but it's very singular. It doesn't allow you to experience love and joy and happiness. It's just anger. So, hopefully you can have anger and all these other things as well, and explore the whole rainbow.
Was this shift from anger to a more maybe accepting perspective? Was it something that happened in a specific moment, or
I think it's
gradual?
It's just time. Yeah, I think I get less angry as I get older. Not because I don't have things to get angry about. There's probably more to be angry about than ever, but I find it just doesn't serve me. Like, I'm able to be more powerful and to try to be a more positive part of the revolution that's taking place if I'm not angry and I'm full of love. I realize that's my strongest sword, is love and inspiration. And you can still use aggression. You can still be massively aggressive. That's what I love about skateboarding. That's what I love about having an acoustic guitar through a Marshall. It's highly aggressive. And sometimes there's still anger, but it's not just anger anymore. It's a little bit more like, okay, well, there's love and there's relationships and there's a heart space. And in order to experience these things, I need to kind of step out of the angry part to see what else is out there. There's so much to life. There's so much good stuff going on.
But I assume the kinds of things you were angry about, like the industrial machine and that kind of stuff, I assume those still remain, because you're still fighting for, I believe it was in Kimberley, where they're thinking of building a gas plant.
And the Great Barrier Reef and all the fracking and the incessant, ever-hungry machine that just wants to eat up everything in the name of money and greed and power. Yeah, I mean, those are hard things to ignore. And I'm for me, for some reason, for my makeup, they are very, they sit very close into my face sometimes, and they're very hard not to think about. But they're there. But that's just not all that's there. Before it was just all that was there, and it was just all-consuming and a little bit depressing, But I have children. I got these amazing kids, and I got a beautiful wife, and I'm taking rides through amazing parks in Amsterdam, and there's awesome things going on. There's life happening. There's good life happening. Like this, some of the peak of what it is to be human is happening in that park. And if you don't celebrate those things and you ignore them and only concentrate on the negative things, well then you can't really evolve. It kind of spirals down.
Right. Right.
Yeah. If you think if you only concentrate on the negative, then that's all you're ever going to get. So you got to be aware of everything that's going on. But I think you have to be able to harness the good and acknowledge the good, so you can do something about the not so good stuff.
And then that's where your charity or your grant program, The Seed, comes in, kind of.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that goes more as a kind of a service. I think all citizens of the world have a service to give, and by means of their own resources, and it's that old kind of Marxist kind of thing, to each and everybody according to their needs, and so I don't have a lot of needs and I have a lot of resources, and that means I have a duty to share more. It's just fun to share. It's nice to give people stuff and see that it helps them out. I mean, that makes me feel good. It's probably pretty self-centered actually at the time, because it makes me feel really good. That's why I do it. As much as it makes other people feel good.
But I assume it's also in favor of the progression of music in Australia, the promotion.
Yeah, sure. It's a belief in culture. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's about building culture, and it's about we're all in it together. We all in that another cliche, united we stand, divided we fall. It's kind of like you want to help the others around you, and especially in Australia where we're such a young culture. There's houses here that are older than the colonized country of mine. Mind you, we're a 60,000-year-old culture underneath that, sure. The indigenous culture. But as far as modern Western Australia, it's very young. As far as trying to find an identity through music and art, it's early days, and so it takes concerted effort to make sure that we're stoking our own fires and not just throwing other people's sounds and other people's images into it in this almost this kind of monopolized kind of, what's the word when you pasteurize and then what do you do to milk? Forget it. Stay with me. Anyways, I can't work it out now. But we live in a very global economy, and it's easy for culture kind of to get washed away,
right.
Diluted.
Homogenized.
Thank you very much. Homogenized. And so, I think it's important for cultures to kind of, to a certain degree, keep on distilling what they have and finding their own identity, as well as cross-pollinating. I think that's really good as well. But I think Australia needs to make sure, being so young, with America and England having such a massive influence on the world musically and artistically, it's easy for Australian bands just to sound like another American band. Right. And that's all well and good, because rock and roll is great, and Marshall guitars and electric guitars, these are good things, but to still have our own stories, I think, and so to do that, the only way you can do that is keep on throwing more of your own wood on your own fire, so that fire does get bigger, and it tells you we can tell our stories and our folk, because all music is folk in some way or another. We're all telling the stories of what's around us, and we'll make sure we're telling our own stories and not just other people's.
Okay, well, let's go back to the album quickly. It's called Flesh and Blood. Mm-hmm. When in the process did this title come up?
At the very end. We're looking for titles, and my manager was reading some lyrics, Blame It On Me, and he saw that phrase, flesh and blood, and he went, how about that? And I was like, that's a great idea. I'm terrible at naming my albums, and to me, it seemed to reflect the content. It's a lot more of a textural, feely kind of album, and it's talking about more human stories, and it's a bit more raw, and because of that, I felt Flesh and Blood really reflected.
Was this direction, the fact that it was more raw and more, that way, was this thought of in advance, or is it just the way it turns out all the way?
The only thing I really thought of on this album was I wanted to bring that the good poetry in with the experientiality of the musicality of the band, and I use this word experiential because this trio does it, and a lot of bands do it, but we do it in our own way. The trio has a very good knack of doing this thing where the song can kind of be very mellow, like in, say, Wings Are Wide, and slowly open like a flower and get dirtier and dirtier and louder and louder and louder, and then suck down in this, when the lyrics say I've said everything I can say, and they pass it on to the lyric, they pass it on to the music, and the music says everything that the words can. That's what I call experiential. It's like in the kind of Band of Gypsies, Jimi Hendrix kind of way, where something kind of goes, when it can breathe and open, and so. And the trio does that really well, and so I wanted to bring that aspect back in with the songs, and that was about the only thing I thought about. And then everything from that point on is just the trio doing what we need to do for the songs. We just serve the songs. The song is boss, and the trio is just the employees of the song, and we just try to keep the song happy.
Well, there's one more thing then, because I think I have to quit, but
Oh,
there's
yeah.
one more thing, because I read also in one of those bios that the thing about the song capturer, it describes you as a song capturer where songs must be caught without breaking their spirit. Is
Yeah.
that kind of what you just mentioned?
Yeah. I mean, you definitely want to. I mean, some songs just don't want to come out of your head or out of the ether. You know, they're beautiful wild things out there, and you know, it's like that movie. I see dead people. I hear unfinished music, and I hear it in my head. And sometimes, you know, I do have to bring it in. I've brought in many a song, kicking in, screaming, and plopped it onto the tape, and it just sounds. So you know, songs have to want to come out, and you have to get the saddle on in a certain way that the horse or the song feels comfortable. And when it comes in, it can come in as purely as possible. It is wild, and it's elegant, and it's graceful and terrifying, and you know. And if you break its spirit, then it's just average.
So when do you know when to take a step back when you're trying to harness a song?
Or sometimes I just take 6 years to write a song. Spring to Come that music was around for 5 years, and it just didn't want to come until one day I was camping next to a fire and it came out all at once. And I was like, other songs, you know, come out right away. Other songs come out writing with the band only. Some songs come out, you know, with the band. You know, they come out in all the different ways, and I guess the best thing is just not to be too precious about it. To not think, oh no, I have to write all the song, or I must write all the lyrics, or we can only do this as a band, or I must play an acoustic guitar, you know, I can't play an electric, or, you know, if it comes out on a piano, you know, on a boat, or if it comes out through a Marshall, you know, in a venue, then whatever, you know. If it comes out when I'm camping, you just try to not to be too precious about it. I think our egos can get in the way of how we think we should be. You know, we should write about politics because that's what we've always done, or we should stay acoustic and not play electric because that's what we've always done and that's what people like, or
So in that sense, it's more liberating.
I shouldn't cut
now.
my dreadlocks because blah blah blah. You know, it's like this all.
Right.
It's just bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's not artistic. You know, art does what it wants, and it doesn't follow rules. It doesn't follow languages or any other kind of norms. It just does what it wants, and that's what's so amazing about it. Art. It's lawless.
I think I'm out of time, so
Okay, cool.
thank you a lot for your time.
No worries. Did you get everything you needed?